I'm Tim Munns, your host.
And I'm Isaac Munns, your co-host.
And this is Living Through the Storm, Biblical Prepping. And today, we're going to talk about bread.
Yeah.
And that might seem like a very mundane, boring, like bread. Like you make sandwiches, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to prepping, and when it comes to biblical prepping, as far as centering around a church, and like what we talked about in our last episode, feeding a lot of people, bread becomes very important.
Yeah.
And as we get closer to what looks like we could be seeing a massive 1929 style stock market crash, economy collapse, there could be a lot more people in need of
something as simple as bread.
Something as simple as bread.
So, having the understanding of different ways to be able to make bread is...
Yeah, and just bread in general.
Yeah.
So, before we get started, let's go to the good word.
Yep.
And
this one, it's John 6, 35 through 39.
There you go.
So, then Jesus declared, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will never go hungry, and he who believes in me will never be thirsty. But as I told you, you have seen me, and still you do not believe. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me I will never drive away. For whoever comes to me, for have come down from heaven, and not to do my will, but to do the will of him who sent me. And this is the will of him who sent me, that I shall lose none of all that he has given me, but raise them up at the last day. My bad.
Okay. Jesus is the bread of life.
Yes.
But as much as I want to talk about that for the rest of this episode, because that is truly
the best bread.
Truly. And it's amazing. We're going to move on to a less important bread, which is
far less
the bread of the world.
Yep.
Versus the bread of life. So, and there's a lot of different kinds of bread. And bread comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes and whatnot.
Circles, squares, stuff
you know,
like that.
When we were living in Guatemala, one of the things you saw in Guatemala was that bread becomes more important the less meat you have available.
Yeah, I mean, and bread was just something that was there no matter what you were eating or where you were. It's just bread was there.
Well, and, you know, I think about, you know, we have fried chicken places in the United States. And in fried chicken places in the United States, you pick up your piece of fried chicken and you eat it with your hands and you eat it right off the bone, and maybe you have a biscuit on the side, and that's how you eat your fried chicken. Well, in Guatemala...
Yeah, it came with a thing of tortillas, and instead you picked the chicken off of the bone, put it in your tortilla with maybe, I don't know, corn, depended on who you were.
Or rice, or...
You know, whatever,
yeah.
Whatever you were getting with your chicken, and then you'd eat it that way.
And that was to extend the amount of food you were getting in one sitting. In Guatemala, to have leftovers at the end of the meal was insulting. And...
Yeah, it never happened.
It was a thing that you didn't do because food was so highly valued. Because there were people that literally starved to death while we were in Guatemala. You know, that's a thing that still happens in countries in Central and Latin America. And in the United States, it's hard to understand someone starving to death. And so, you know, and I shouldn't just say the United States, Western Europe. It's hard to comprehend someone starving to death. or making a choice between their child eating or them eating, or terrible things that happen in history.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some pretty crazy things.
You know, as we move forward, bread is one of those things, as a community, as a church, a community of believers, if you're feeding a large number of people and all you can make is soup or stew, or you just have a little bit of meat, you add a large amount of bread, or you add some bread, and it becomes a filler. It becomes something that gets into you, gets you some energy, gets you moving, and it helps people survive. Because at that point in time, you're talking about survival.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is, even if you just have like broth, you mix bread in there, and you can it's suddenly a lot better.
Well, and there is some protein in bread. There is protein in the different flours that allow you to make bread.
Yeah.
So, but in bread is actually, it's fairly easy to make, and the ingredients that you need to make bread can all be found dried. You can find powdered milk, powdered eggs, powdered butter, flour, yeast. Everything that you would need can be found powdered, dried, and stay kept in a sealed container for very, very long periods of time.
So it sounds like just add water.
Literally, just add water and mix. And then if you're needing to make a large amount of bread at one time and you have electricity, one of these things over here, you want to grab that.
This.
These bread makers, people, they bought them a while back and they were a novelty. And, they got a heating element in them and whatnot.
So you can actually cook your bread in there. And then it's this weird rectangle with...
But it, it works out. But they work. And you can just throw the ingredients in there and it can make the dough. And you pull the dough out and cook it up in some other vessel, or you can make another batch in there.
Yeah, they're very useful. If you got one, they're very useful. Otherwise, it's very easy to make bread.
Yeah, it's not tough. It's not tough. And actually, I used to make bread, multiple loaves, sometimes multiple loaves a day, but for a homeschool co-op. And I would make multiple loaves a week, and I would use, this bread machine and another bread machine, and...
they were very good loaves of bread.
Yeah, he was one of the students in the homeschool co-op.
Yeah.
But, we had a bunch of different kids, and some of them had allergy issues and whatnot, and so it was very important to know what was in their diets. And we were doing a lot of things with organic and different recipes and whatnot. And, but having the bread machines was interesting, but you don't need one of these.
No, you don't.
Matter of fact,
you don't need them.
We made bread this week. We mixed it up in this. To be honest with you, we mixed it up in this. But then,
we didn't cook them in that.
We cooked some in this, which is a pellet smoker.
Yeah.
And it's easy to control the temperature in a pellet smoker. We just put it in there, put it at 350. And put it in the pellet smoker, left it in there for half an hour, and it was done. It was wonderful.
Yeah, quite good.
And then,
so we can't show you it.
Yeah. And then we made some with this over here. Let me grab this.
Well, I'll grab it.
Yeah, if you want to bring up the next slide here.
This is a
tiny little propane grill.
Yep.
And
you're gonna see us use this in a second.
Yeah, and we made 2 loaves of bread with this. One, you can see, burned the bottom. Kind of burned the bottom here. It's a very dense loaf. Didn't rise that much once we put it in there. The top didn't turn out that bad, but the bottom,
it looks kind of
charcoaly. And then this pale white loaf here is our second attempt, and we used a very interesting method. It's called a water bath method.
Actually, I think we can.
We got a couple of videos of us doing this.
We'll have those play, and then we'll just talk behind them.
Yeah.
Also, I'll move this while we're doing that.
What we're doing here is, because we couldn't keep the temperature of this tiny little grill below, or at or around 350, we used the water bath method. So put a cake pan in there, put the bread pan, and then we put water in the cake pan. And that helps keep the cake pan, or helps keep the bread pan from getting too high. Well, in the little grill, it actually kept
the whole grill from getting all that hot.
I mean, the whole grill only got to be about 260 degrees. Now, this is interesting. We made a little hook here to open the grill.
This is the reason for this is we actually did this once before and forgot to press record, but the reason is when you open it, a whole bunch of very hot steam comes out.
And Isaac actually got a little burnt with that.
It hurts. So we made the hook. So
and then we cooked it in the water bath for half an hour, and then we put it back in, and then turned up the heat and let it heat up to 450 degrees, and then we turned off all of the heat and just let it cool down to about 200 degrees.
And then,
so I mean, it's hot enough that you can kind of touch it, cool enough to kind of touch it, but you still want the hot pads. And that is right here.
Yeah, it's actually this bread right there.
This bread right here, and we're gonna. I mean, it's
bread. You can eat it.
It's bread. You can eat it.
It's very tasty.
It is very tasty. It's very moist with the water bath method. Not a surprise.
Yeah. I mean, we did kind of add some moisture.
It rose quite a bit. With it heating up to 450 and then letting it cool down just on its own.
Yeah.
We just heated the grill up till the temperature gauge on the top said 450, and then we turned off the propane and just let it cool down. And you could let it cool all the way down.
Yeah, I mean...
and you probably could have heated it up to a little higher than 450. I wouldn't go much higher than that, or you might end up with...
coal.
Yeah.
I mean...
coal bread. Which, I mean, German black breads, some people really enjoy them. I mean, they're a yummy bread, but...
I'm not sure burnt bread is the same.
That is not a German black bread. That is a... it's coal.
You know what? If you like the taste of carbon...
Yeah. If you enjoy eating pencils,
as weird as that is,
it's good for you. No, it's not good for you. It's horrible. Don't eat pencils. Don't eat pencils. Don't eat. Anyway, so
tortillas.
Tortillas are another bread you can make very easily.
Down in Guatemala, we actually saw them make them a different way than the way that you normally hear, which is using the tortilla press. But they just took it, they spun it on a griddle until it was flat, and then they just let it cook on a griddle.
And they'd make them with a tortilla press down there too.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'd actually go to one of the restaurants in the markets, and there would be the person making the tortillas right there that you would be eating for your order.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fresh made tortillas.
You could see how fresh it was.
Yeah. And, tortillas are a very simple bread, very simple to make. You do need a tortilla press or the ability to make them the spun way. I would go with the tortilla press.
It's a lot easier, a lot less skill involved.
Yeah. And tortillas they're tasty.
Yeah.
And depending on the type of recipe, it's sort of like you can make a white loaf, you can make a whole grain loaf, you can make, a German black bread. You just need a pan and the ingredients. It's sort of the same thing with a lot of flatbreads.
Yeah.
Tortilla is not the only one. You can make a naan. You can make pita breads. These sorts of things.
Yeah.
And again,
really, you just
there
need a
are
way
ways of extending a food supply if you're serving a lot of people. And if you're serving a lot of people and you're serving them homemade bread, that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you can get a hold of bread from a supermarket, if you can get a hold of bread from a bakery, or we were actually working with a homeless community in St. Paul, Minnesota, and we were getting what would have been considered day-olds from
really it was just a bunch of
coffee shops.
Yeah, donated coffee,
and they were pastries. A couple of big name coffee shops actually that I don't really want to throw their names out there right now, but we were getting their day-olds and we were freezing them, and then we were bringing them out. Now, we were going through a lot of pastries. And pastries, it's a sugary bread.
Yeah.
But we were doing that in the morning at breakfast time with coffee. And we were getting those free. They were donated to us through a charity, Second Harvest Food Shelf, or Second Harvest. And a great organization, love them. But
super awesome what they were doing there.
Yeah.
And the coffee shops for donating there.
Yeah, instead of throwing them in a dumpster. And, on that note, if you're feeding people out of your church in a charity sense, in most states, you're covered as far as liability. Now, you do need to check with an attorney. This is not legal advice. Check with an attorney. Make sure you're covered if you need to deal with any kind of insurance, any kind of other, legal type issues. Make sure, that you don't need licenses or, health code. You don't want to be in violation and be shut down helping people in need.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know the health department needed to come and do an inspection before you sold bread. Or not sold bread, but gave bread away. Obviously, if you're selling bread,
if you're selling,
you're gonna need to get health inspections and licenses and everything else. But if you're giving it away to people in need, you may still need some of these things. And you need to get with an attorney, you need to get with your city or county and find out. Now, you may be covered through what's called Good Samaritan laws and liabilities, but check into it because that's important. We don't want to see churches getting themselves into trouble helping people. That's the wrong answer. But in today's society, it's a possibility.
And you know what? If there's no way for you to do it from inside your building, try to find a way to help out anyway.
Yeah.
Even if it's outside your building or at one of the congregation's homes.
And speaking of in your home, we talk about doing your National Guard drills. Not that you're in the National Guard, but practicing doing something as far as biblical prepping 1 weekend a month, and then trying to do some kind of big event 1 week, 2 weeks a year, whether that be like a VBS or whatever, and we're going to do a more in-depth video on the training kind of thought, as far as that goes. But this is a perfect, baking bread on a grill, baking bread on a smoker, baking bread. Maybe you've never made bread ever in your life. It's a perfect thing to do for a weekend. Get a couple of people together, make some homemade bread. And
you know what? Not all of it's going to turn out well. But when you try, you learn, and you improve.
And you know what? If you're you've made a whole bunch of bread, try it on a tiny little propane grill, because we didn't know this was going to work out. We didn't. This was a complete experiment. We wanted to try it to see, can you control the temperature of that little grill? Grab that little grill.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Can
we
you
got this
control
little
it?
grill. It's, you know, you got a closed space, you got a heating element. This is where the propane goes. And you got a thermometer. Well, it kind of looks like a little oven. Can you work it like a little oven? That's what we wanted to find out. You know, we could sit here and turn the temperature on and off, 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 and cook it like that. That would have probably worked.
Would have taken a while, but it would have worked.
Well, it would have taken probably about, it would have been fiddly.
Yeah.
But we wanted to try the water bath and see how that worked.
Yeah.
And we found out it works.
It gives you a paler loaf of bread, but it works just fine.
It gives you a loaf of bread.
Bread
and
is
that
bread.
was what we wanted. Just letting it charcoal up? Nope.
Well, I mean...
That did... Well, we have a loaf of bread. If it was this or starve, I'm eating this.
Yep.
You know
what? With a little bit of water.
I've eaten worse things in the world, I'll tell you that. Yeah. Army. So, hey, not even in training. Army chow halls. I'm pretty sure I've had worse things than that. But,
They burn
you know...
just
It's,
everything.
yeah,
apparently.
it's just, it was,
I
there
wouldn't
were
know.
times it was bad.
He knows, I know.
But yeah, you know, experiment, try things out. It's fun. You know, and we got to hang out and do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. Nobody was severely injured with steam, so
Yeah,
all
again,
things were good.
be careful. We did this in the garage. It was pouring rain today. And
Yeah.
we did it in the garage, but we left a little bit. There was, as you can see in the
that
video, bring up one of those videos, editor.
Hopefully it'll pop up.
Yeah.
There it is.
You can see there was room around it. You can see the garage doors open a little bit. We were trying to do this. All right, that should be good. You can cut back to us anytime you want. There we go.
Hi.
But yeah, you know, do it safe. Make sure
Yeah.
you're not doing this in your house with the windows closed and pile of rags around it. You don't want to burn down your house. You don't want to kill your kids with carbon monoxide. Do it smart. You know, either outside or in plenty of ventilation with plenty of room around it. You don't want to be starting a fire. You don't want to be hurting anyone with carbon monoxide. So be careful. Be safe.
Yeah.
Have a fire extinguisher. But try these things out. They're, you know.
It's really helpful to actually learn some of this stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all for today.
Yeah.
We wish you the best, and we wish that God would bless you and keep you and make his face to shine upon you. And remember, Jesus Christ is the true bread of life, and apart from him, we are all starving in our hearts for the true bread of life,
Amen.
Jesus. So, if you've liked today's video,
You should hit that like button.
hit the like button, or, wow, that was crazy.
Yeah, well, hit the like button
Hit the
on
like button
Facebook or YouTube. Subscribe on our YouTube channel.
Absolutely. And we will see you next time. Here, I am Tim Mons,
I'm Isaac Munz.
and this is Living Through the Storm, Biblical Propane.